You all know about prices on cameras and lenses, but what about the true cost in photography? Let's find out. Hi, it's Jimmy here from RED35, and today I want to talk a little about numbers. Well, not in terms of specification, nothing about megapixels or how many elements in your lens. Nope, nothing at all, but rather about the price on your photography. Yes, you heard that right. It's the price of the photography, not the price of gear. Because buying gear is simple. Easy. You look up the price tag, it's listed everywhere online. If you like it, if you can afford it, you hit the buy button and bam, and that's it. You get your gear, you get a lens and camera, full stop. But do you stop there? Nope, of course not. Because this hobby or profession, if you decide to make some money from photography, is way more than just buying gear. Before I continue, today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. So I just talked about, the cost of photography is not simply the cost of buying your gear, because you will have to add a lot more to just that. Beware, you might be a little bit shocked once I told you the cost on how I started my own photography, because it's a long haul project, right? It's not something that you just simply buy it and you're going to be, that's it, full stop. There's no other costs incur throughout the entire photographic journey of yours. And I can tell you that it can only get more expensive. But bear with me, I want to highlight a few important points just to get you started so you really understand the true cost in photography. So I started my photographic journey in the early 90s. It's quite some time ago now, and I was still a student, but I was really into photography and I really wanted to get a decent camera, not just a point and shoot, because back then it's still analog we're talking about. So to get something slightly more serious, you will need an SLR or something that will allow you to have manual controls or, swapping lenses and things like that. Point and shoot just simply won't cut it. So being a poor student, I had to save some of my lunch money and eventually get myself a mid-range camera. And I didn't go for the beginner level cameras, and because there are certain features I was looking for specifically for my type of photography. But other than that, it's really cool. And I started with that camera and I shot with that for years and years and years. And this is kind of the journey that I want to talk to you about, because buying the camera is really just the first the starting point of the journey. And it's really simple. Like I said earlier, you can just look up online and find something you like. If you can afford it, just click the buy button these days, right? And but it's not that. It might come with a kit lens, but eventually you will need to upgrade. You have to start thinking and plan ahead of that. And obviously, this is when you start to think that photography really is your game and you really want to concentrate on it and build on your experience and be improved as a photographer in long haul. But however, there are other things that, I did not expect at all. Things like buying films, developing them, printing the photographs, buying an album to put the photographs in them, or even having a frame to put them up, buying a camera bag to carry your camera and lenses, a tripod, and all these accessories and consumables. I never ever budgeted them in my head. So I later found out that, it's way more than just buying the camera and the lens. It becoming a little bit more expensive as a student. So I had to limit what I can do. And even though I have a decent camera and the lens at the time, but I couldn't afford to take many photographs. So now when I come to think of it, I should have bought a really low-end camera just to get me started. And I have more time and more money to buy more films to shoot, because this is the ultimate goal: to shoot more, to improve, and to capture more stuff that I want to capture. Not limited by the budget that I had, limited budget of course, and as a poor student. But this is the exact kind of same mentality I want to put you in your head now. And especially for beginner photographers who just basically trying to get a decent camera, a nice camera for your holiday and things like that. It's not as simple as just go and hit the buy button, because there are other things that you may want to consider. So let's talk about consumables. And first, I talk about memory cards. Well, this is very, very very important. And trust me, you really want to get a branded, more reputable, reliable memory card than cheap out and buy a low-end, unbranded version of it. Because the point of getting a camera is to take pictures. And what's the point if you take them and then lose them afterward? And I've heard countless of cases when people buying cheaper memory cards, then somehow they lose them because either the card was corrupted or it somehow just malfunctioned while they're shooting. And this is very, very critical if you're doing something really interesting or something really important, like a very memorable event, for instance. So you really do not want that to happen. The buying a good memory card not only gives you slightly higher reliability, lower risks on losing your images, but if you buy the pro version, like some of the pro grade memory cards, they usually come with an image rescue software that will basically retrieve some of the images, even in the case of corruption. So this is really, really important so you don't lose the images, because they are just as important as everything. This is the whole point of buying a camera in the first place, right? Just to capture those gorgeous and memorable images. So you really do not want to lose them. And battery. Yes, you do need to get more battery, especially if you're an enthusiast type of photographer who like to shoot a lot on the location, because digital cameras simply don't last long these days. No matter how the manufacturer claim about how many frames you can take per battery, in reality, if you keep the camera on, it simply won't last long, because the screen, the EVF, everything draws power from the battery. And that's it, you know, the theoretical number usually counted on a continuous basis, like you just basically keep on clicking until the battery dies. So like those numbers, a bit like electric cars, you know, the claim mileage is never going to be the real life mileage. This is basically the same thing. And in colder weather, the battery tend to die a lot sooner than expected, because just how it is about temperature. So you just have to bear that in mind. So getting some more battery would definitely help if you're going out, if you don't have a charging outlet to top up your battery, or your camera doesn't support USB-C charging, for instance. So all these little things you need to budget it in and get some more battery. But if you want to save some money, or you don't have the budget for it, you can get third-party battery if you wish. In this particular case, it's not as critical as the memory cards I mentioned earlier, because a third-party battery won't corrupt the files. You know, it just gives you slightly less shooting time, for instance, and also it may not last as long as the original batteries, because I have used third-party batteries before, and I still have some lying around, and they just simply don't, you know, they don't last as long or as well as the original battery. So I always tend to go for the original, simply because the reliability and the longer life and longer shooting time that I can get out of them. So this is really important to me, and especially as a professional. So bear that in mind, and then budget it in and get some more battery for your next trip as well. Third is carrying solution. Whether it's going to be a shoulder bag or backpack, or simply just a cube or a pouch, you need something to protect your camera and the lens while you're moving from A to B. This is critical. And to start, you don't really need something fancy or expensive. You can get something really cheap from Amazon, like £20. You can get something to put your camera in. There's nothing wrong with them. They just don't protect them too well, nor they're that durable either. But when you're getting a bit more serious, you may want to consider investing in a slightly better bag. But just bear in mind that a lower end camera bag will not last as long, nor they will protect it as well as the more expensive stuff. There's a reason why they're more expensive, because they're either using better quality materials, the craftsmanship, the durability of it, the repairability of it, and also you know, how much is shielded around the bag. For instance, some of them have rain covered, some of them are actually waterproof, so you don't have to worry about the elements if you're going, like, let's say for a hike in a very extreme condition, for instance. So all these things you need to consider in the long term once you're getting a little bit more serious in photography. Before I continue to add more numbers to the cost of photography, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform where you can find tons of high quality material so you can learn new skills or further your existing knowledge. Even as a professional myself, I need to keep up with the latest trends and upgrade my skills for tomorrow's projects. I recently got a few new inspirations from my good friend Dan Rubin's travel photography class. It's fun, relaxed, and well presented. And this is the same across all classes inside Skillshare. So if you want to learn something in photography, or even for your well-being, there's always a class in Skillshare. Because I'm so good, Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 subscriber a 1-month free trial instead of the normal 7 days by clicking the link in the video description below and use the code RED35 photography. So you can start explore this huge library to your heart's content and boost your creative juice, or at the comfort on your sofa, in a toilet if you're having a break, or even on a bus or train when you're commuting to work. Sounds cool? Yes, it is really awesome. Anyway, let's go back and continue to add number to the cost of photography. So let's recap a little bit. I talked about memory card, battery, bag, but there are also other accessories, other tangible items that you may need for your type of photography, such as tripod, for instance, lights, whether it's going to be a flash gun or a strobe, or even just some LED lights. It really depends on what sort of contents or other photography that you're generating, because they all need slightly different niche product to attach to your photography. But these are all tangible things. And now let's talk about something that you cannot touch, because this is something that definitely I did not think about when I first started my photography journey. And this is the cost of travel. Yes, this is something I definitely did not expect. Well, it's really fine that you're photographing in the backyard or in the garden, or even your local areas, your local parks. Is totally fine. But soon you will find that you have photographed every single inch of it, if you're obviously the serious type. And so you really want to explore further afield, something that is different to your local areas. And you want to see, let's say if you want to capture a better sunset, sunrises, you want to travel further out, or you want to get some astro stuff, you want to get into astro, so you need a pitch black area and you're living right in the middle of the city, you need to get out to do that. These are costs that simply have to add to your photography. A lot of people don't think about that because they spend all the budget that they had into buying the top of the range cameras or better cameras and lens, and then forget about the rest of it. And at the end, I think, to me, I find more joy, find more satisfaction by actually going to a place that nobody has been, or just to capture something that really spectacular, then come back and share this amazing photo to people, that they would just say, wow, that's so cool. Where did you get that? How did you get that? I find more joy and more satisfaction in those than actually having the top of the range camera hanging around my neck. And this is the truth. Of course, you guys know that I do use the OM1, which is the flagship in the OM system, and other nice lenses and stuff, only because I'm a pro as well. So I do use pro grade equipment for many reasons I mentioned before about reliabilities and things like that. But as a beginner, as an amateur, you simply don't need that. Like I said, when I first started my photography journey, I was a poor student, and what I did not really account for was these costs that I just mentioned. But more importantly, it was the travel, because as a student, like I said, I had limited budget. I already spent so much on the camera, and I had to buy films and all the other stuff continuously. Don't forget that not like digital these days, you just have a memory card, you can last for years, but film only had 36 frames. Once it's exposed, and that's it, I had to get another roll. So these are continuous costs that I had to add to it. And I have to travel to places because I want to take more landscape stuff at a time. And I had nowhere to go. I had to travel further. I feel I have to put petrol in my car, I have to drive out further, I have to take the time out to do it as well. So these are really something that is simply just wasn't in my head when I first started my photographic journey. And this is something that I just want to highlight to you, whether you're into that sort of thing. But I'm guaranteed that if you really love photography, you will soon grow out of your local areas. You want to go out further to take something slightly more interesting and something more spectacular. Maybe even actually have a photo trip or photo holiday to go even further out to some exotic locations to get some really awesome images. So these are really something that you have to put it in the cost of photography. And finally, yes, this is the final item, is studying. Right, this is important as well. You don't need a degree to take brilliant photographs. No, you definitely don't need to, unless you really want to learn about the history of photography, learn the theory behind it, and yeah, just something extra from taking the photographs. But I'm a self-taught, and but I did spend a lot of money in buying photo books and also attending workshops to further my career and my visions and my creativity, because just doing it yourself sometimes is very limiting, because you just don't know, what's out there, for instance, because photography is such a vast world of creativity there. There's so many genres to start with, but within each genre, there's specialists, and you need to learn from those people. Once you get into a particular field that you want to focus on, you need to learn from those experts, because the reason why they're so popular, why they're so prominent in the photographic field in that particular area, is because of how good they are. But you need to learn why they're so good at it. Then you're studying their photographs, and you know why they're taking them, how did they take them, and things like that. So this is really important. So for me, for my type of photography, I like to buy photo books about storytellings. So I buy a lot of documentary, a lot of street photography books, a lot of travel photography books published by the actual photographer themselves, and I can see their pictures, and I study them, and study not only from the technicality side, because those are pretty simple and straightforward, but more to do with the why and the reason to take that particular photograph. And this is really, really important. If you can feel something in the photograph, and that means they've done a magnificent job in it, and you start to appreciate them, and then you study them, and you start to have that kind of translations in your head, and when you come out to do it on your own, you can kind of apply the same feeling and emotion into the photography, and I guarantee that really shows in it. And also going to the workshops is also help, because a lot of the masters, they will just basically talk you through the process of making photographs, like the why that I mentioned earlier. So they will showcase some of the iconic photos and talk, basic behind the scenes stuff. And why did they achieve that? And why did they choose that subject, for instance? And why did they choose a certain lighting condition, time of day, whatever, anything like that. So this is really interesting to understand and learn from these masters. So when I do my own workshop, I do the same thing to my students. I will spend time with them. I talk through my images, and I look at the images and tell them like exactly what they need to improve, because this is really, I really want them to become a better photographer. And to be honest, I went through that myself. So I want to try kind of share my own knowledge and my experience to the next generation, to make sure that they can benefit from the same thing that I learned from other masters in the past when I was doing my photography. So like, this is something I believe is really critical and really important if you're very, very serious about your photography and want to take your photography to the next level. So you see, the true cost of photography is not simply buying camera and lenses. This is simple. You see the price tag, and that's basically it. There are so many other things you would need to consider if you're really serious about your photography. So to summarize it, I always talk to my students and to all the beginner level photographer and even existing practicing photographer, is that concentrate less on gear, but spend more time and money on exploring the world, to shoot more, to go out and shoot more. And this is the only way that you can improve. And then by studying other people's work, by acquiring some of the photo books, and then studying each of the photographs that are listed in the book, and also attending some of the workshops from these masters is really beneficial to make sure that you can jump to the next level of photography. And trust me, I've been through that myself, and it's really important that you learn from experts and other advanced photographers, because, it's easy to just see images online and trying to copy certain things, but you really need to get beyond that photograph that you're seeing. You need to understand exactly why they take those photographs, not about technicality, because technical stuff is really, really simple. Once you learn about exposure triangle and practice enough, you basically understand all that. Really simple. But the why, the angle, why did they choose certain composition? Why did they use this and that? Why did they take that particular subject? All this stuff. You need to understand all the why in each of those photographs, because this would only beneficial. Because when you take a photograph, you're asking yourself, why am I taking that particular photograph? It's not just about, oh, it's nice. It's not just about that, right? You need to understand why I take that. You know, you want to include things that you want to include in the frame, not just by just standing there, plonk the tripod there and just take a snapshot like that. This doesn't mean anything. You want your photograph to mean something, you need to start questioning. So this is basically the point of today's photography, and I hope you enjoy it. And thanks again for Skillshare for sponsoring this particular episode, so I'm really grateful for that. So you know what to do now. Give me your thoughts about your cost of photography. You know, hope that I'm not adding too much cost and break your wallet, for instance. So let me know what you think about today's video and the points that I raised today. And you know what to do now. Thumb if you liked the video, and also sub if you want to stay in touch with all things photography, filmmaking, and of course OM digital solution stuff. Oh, even though I have the Panasonic Leica lens here. Anyway, yeah, enjoy yourself today. And remember, keep shooting. Peace. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you have seen my previous video on the Panasonic lenses because they're really cool. And I do think that, you know, the 202.8, which I have right here with the 1.4 times converter, is actually magnificent. I'm gonna try to do a review on it. I don't know if I have time because MPP needs to get this lens back, but really thanks to them. Thank you for their sponsorship. You know, without them, you know, I wouldn't be able to test these lenses. And like I said, I have limited budget. I can't buy and own all lenses in the world, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking me to do this and that, but it's simply impossible. But your views really counts, help me make a little bit of money, and I can contribute back to this channel and just make more awesome content for you guys to see. But anyway, I'm gonna head off and try and take some more shot with this magnificent lens. I'm tempted to get this 202.8 because it's actually pretty cool, and the 1.4 times converter. I already have one with Olympus, so I probably don't need a converter just to get the lens. And the 202.8 is really nice, really creamy, and the AF is actually pretty fast on the OM1. Definitely much faster than the 100 to 400 Panasonic Leica lens by quite a margin actually. So this can keep up with moving subjects quite well, birds in flight. So this is really good. And 2.8, sweet. Anyway, see you guys all later. Bye for now.